Music is a soundtrack to the continuing civil rights movement, but it is far more than a soundtrack. Music powerfully gives voice to the unvoiced, cries out in protest, calls out a rallying cry, urges on protesters, lends strength to singers and listeners alike, inspires all who heed the message, and can change minds and hearts.
Welcome to the Boston Public Library. My name is Jonna Gifford. I am the Chief of Adult Library Services. I've been at the Boston Public Library for about 12 years now, and I get to work with really fantastic teams here, and one of them is the programs team. And I have to say, we do so many programs every year. It's such a treat, and it allows for a lot of creativity. It's a lot of fun to be involved with this planning, and I want to thank my team, and I want to thank the partners that we work with GBH Forum Network does our producing for the Lowell series, and again, my thanks to the Lowell Institute for the funding we get. Tonight, actually, the title of tonight's talk is The Music of Civil Rights, From Strange Fruits to the Roots. And how better to kick off this year of music than really with Dr. John Edward Hassey. And I'm going to read you just part of his biography because it's extensive and impressive and delightful. So Dr. Hassey is one of America's foremost music historian educators. He helps audiences understand the power of music to move and inspire us to greater heights. Dr. Hassey is a museum curator, author, speaker, and leader in his field. During his 33-year tenure at the Smithsonian Institution's National Museum of American History, he was curator emeritus, developed exhibitions on Duke Ellington, Ella Fitzgerald, Frank Sinatra, and Ray Charles. He founded the Smithsonian Jazz Masterworks Orchestra, now celebrating its 31st anniversary, and International Jazz Appreciation Month, which is celebrated in all 50 states and 40 other countries. And we do it here, John, you'll be glad to know. Okay, we're paying attention. We do a lot on cultural heritage. I love this. Dr. Hassey's books include an acclaimed biography, Beyond Category, The Life and Genius of Duke Ellington, with a foreword by Wynton Marsalis, and a book called Jazz, the First Century, with forewords by Quincy Jones and Tony Bennett. He's an expert on 20th century music. He's a contributor to the Washington Post and 8 encyclopedias, and has written 50 articles on music for the Wall Street Journal. We could go on and on and on, but it's so exciting, I'm going to stop. Let me please invite Dr. John Edward Hassey to the stage, and thank you again for being here. John.
Thank you, Jonna, and good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I want to thank Jonna Gifford, Kristen Mott, the staff of the Boston Public Library, the Lowell Institute, and GBH for bringing me here, and for Drew Sullivan from the American Program Bureau. I'm honored to be with you all tonight. I'm here to tell you a story. The story has a beginning, a middle, and as yet no end. The story goes back to one of America's original sins, the horrendous practice of slavery. I will share with you tonight powerful music that fueled the struggle for equality and respect for people of color, a struggle that continues to this day. Far back in human history, communities got together and began using music to call for social change. The long musical struggle for civil rights encompasses protest, resilience, determination, hope, solidarity, and affirmation of Black people and their culture. Our story begins about 2 centuries ago when enslaved people began coding spirituals to carry a double meaning.
The words we're saying have a double meaning. So anytime you hear anything about traveling shoes or chariots or wheels, somebody's getting ready to run. And so you take a Negro spiritual, swing low, coming for to carry me home. Swing low, sweet chariot, coming for to carry me home. That chariot is movement. That chariot is swinging low, picking you up, putting you on that Underground Railroad, taking you somewhere to freedom. So when we sing those songs, it's like, something's getting ready to happen.
In the 20th century, I'd like to point to two musicians of color who worked hard to create more respect for their music and for, by extension, their people. Songwriter W.C. Handy became known as the father of the blues. Now, his blues were not the low-down, raunchy kind. On the contrary, he was working to create respect for his songs and, by extension, his people. The library has asked me to play the piano tonight, and just to manage your expectations, my vocation is writer and speaker. I play a little piano. So here's my interpretation of Handy's most illustrious song, St. Louis Blues. Duke Ellington dedicated his career to commanding racial respect. I'll now play two of his more familiar themes of all of those that he recorded. I think you'll recognize both of these. The first one was co-written with Billy Strayhorn, and the second one was written by Billy Strayhorn by himself, but became the Duke Ellington Orchestra's theme song. supporting justice and civil rights, Ellington advanced esteem for African Americans through his elegant deportment and sophisticated music, and with such pieces as Black Beauty, Symphony in Black, and his magnum opus, Black, Brown, and Beige, which he subtitled A Tone Parallel to the History of the Negro in America. At a time when Hollywood treated black people with demeaning stereotypes, Duke Ellington made a bold move. He wrote an extended work called Symphony in Black, and Hollywood produced a film that treated him and his musicians and his music with respect and dignity. There have been many works of art that have dealt with America's troubled racial history. Few are more powerful than Strange Fruit, written in 1939, one of the most haunting songs emanating from the heinous Jim Crow era. It was recorded by Billie Holiday and remains potent and piercing today. For Holiday, Strange Fruit was much more than a song, much more than a protest. It was an anguished and autobiographical essay about sins committed against her race. Tony Bennett said, "She didn't sing anything unless she had lived it." The song had a powerful impact on younger musicians. Drummer Max Roach said that Holiday made a statement that we all felt as black folks, but not all African Americans liked it. Singer Paul Robeson objected to it because it portrayed black people as victims. And the novelist Albert Murray wrote, or asked, who the hell wants to go hear something that reminds them of a lynching? Many people figured that Strange Fruit was the first important anti-lynching song. Not so. Some 6 years earlier, Irving Berlin made history. He introduced on Broadway an anti-lynching song played 400 times in a show called As Thousands Cheered. This was a very different song than Strange Fruit. Strange Fruit is troubling and very explicit. This one is an elegant understatement. He never mentions the crime in the lyric. Perhaps not only imagination, but the shared pain of prejudice, discrimination, and marginalization by mainstream society enabled Berlin, a Jewish immigrant from the Russian Empire who settled in New York City, to leap across color and gender lines when writing words for a black female character in the American South. Ethel Waters was a brilliant actress and singer, and here she is performing the song 33 years after she introduced it on Broadway in a television production from 1969.
When Irving Berlin wrote the score to the Broadway show, As Thousands Cheer, he composed one song especially for Ethel Waters. It's the story of a woman who just received word that her husband has been lynched by a frenzied mob. Here now, accompanied by Reginald Bean, is Miss Waters performing the unforgettable Supper Time.
Set the table 'cause it's supper time. Somehow I ain't able 'cause that man of mine ain't coming home no more. Kids will soon be yelling for their supper time. How I keep from telling them that man of mine ain't coming home no more.
Now, moving into the 1940s, in World War II, more than 1 million black people served in the U.S. Armed Forces. In 1948, President Truman integrated the U.S. Armed Forces. In 1955, Rosa Parks refused to give up her seat in a Montgomery bus, public bus. It sparked a year-long bus boycott, and it was helped immeasurably by the young preacher, a 26-year-old Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. They both were arrested. He was arrested many times. The boycott helped launch a modern civil rights movement. For those who didn't live through the blowback, the resistance, the hatred, and the violence of the civil rights era, it's worth a short reminder of what it was like back then. This is the head of the police in Birmingham, Alabama, Bull Connor.
You can never whip these birds if you don't keep you and them separate. You've got to keep the white and the black separate.
This was a Baptist church in Birmingham that was bombed in 1963, killing 4 girls and wounding many others. And here you hear the communal singing in the face of these vicious actions by the police.
Come on back now.
Over my head, I see freedom in the air. How I Got Over, a 1951 gospel song written by Clara Ward, became a vehicle for Mahalia Jackson, who was called the Queen of Gospel. She sang it at the landmark 1963 March on Washington, held on the steps of the Lincoln Memorial.
How did I make it over? Soon as I could see Jesus, the man that died for me, the man that led and suffered, you know he has no Calvary. The brother thank him for my heart me. The brother thank God for my heart me. Yeah, thank God I kept me. Oh, I'm gonna thank him for never left me. And I'm gonna thank him for whole time religion. Yeah, I'm gonna thank God for giving me a vision. And the joy, heavenly fire. Yeah, I'm gonna count, never get tired. You know I'm gonna count, come around me, hold on. Yeah, I'm gonna sing, glory, hallelujah. You know I'm thank him for me. Oh, God did so good to me.
It was Mahalia Jackson who had heard Dr. King extemporize on 2 previous occasions about having a dream. And during the March on Washington, King was on the steps and Mahalia called up to him, "Tell him about the dream, Martin. Tell him about the dream." And so he did. During the 1950s and 60s, activists turned constantly to music to motivate people and inspire them. In fact, music exploded in the civil rights era of that period. Words are so much easier to remember when they are sung. So people gave their messages out through songs with lyrics. And music became a very powerful part of the civil rights movement. Many of these songs were adapted from spirituals. All were passed along by ear and memory. You'll never see somebody marching or protesting reading a piece of sheet music. No, it was by ear and memory. They were passed on through oral tradition. I'd like to point to 5 such songs whose infectious energy swept people up and empowered them to fight for their rights. Go Tell It on the Mountain is an African-American spiritual from the 19th century. It was the Mississippi civil rights leader, Fannie Lou Hamer, who first brought it into the civil rights movement. She borrowed the line, "Let my people go," from the spiritual Go Down Moses, and thus changed Go Tell It on the Mountain from a religious song into a call for justice. If you miss me at the back of the bus, now in this one, the narrator is talking about the Jim Crow practice of forcing black people to sit at the back of the bus. Rosa Parks, the song proclaims that, like Rosa Parks, the singer refuses to sit at the back of the bus. She's going to sit wherever she wants to. Unlike most of the songs passed on by ear, we do know who the writer of the words of the song were, Charles Nesbitt. The music is adapted from the spiritual "Oh Mary, Don't You Weep." Here's a relatively recent video sung by former civil rights activists.
Now if you miss me from the back of the bus, you can't find me nowhere. Come on up to the front of the bus, and I'll be riding up there. I'll be riding up there. I'll be riding up there. Come on up to the front of the bus, and I'll be riding up there. Well, if you miss me from the back of the bus, and you can't find me nowhere, come on up to the front of the bus, and I'll be driving up there. I'll be driving up there. I'll be driving up there. Come on up to the front of the bus, and I'll be driving up there. Now if you miss me from the cotton field, and you can't find me nowhere, just come on over to the courthouse, and I'll be rolling over there. I'll be rolling over there. I'll be rolling over there. Come on over to the courthouse,
This Little Light of Mine, it's a hymn that goes back to at least the 1920s. With its note of optimism, it calmed protesters' nerves when they were waiting and fearing how violent the police would get with them. Incidentally, it was that song that Ray Charles adapted and turned into This Little Girl of Mine, infuriating a lot of church people at the time. Keep Your Eyes on the Prize is based on the traditional song Gospel Plow, also known as Hold On or Keep Your Hand on the Plow, and other permutations. It's a hopeful song. Now, We Shall Overcome comes from the hymn I'll Be All Right. With a change from I to we, the song became civil rights activists' most sung song, heard all across the land. It was the closing song at rallies when participants would link arms. In this clip at the March on Washington, you'll hear a number of voices. At the top of the range is the voice of Joan Baez.
We are not afraid. We are not afraid. We are not afraid today. Oh, deep in my heart, I do believe we shall overcome someday.
Now let's take a look at songs written by songwriters. They weren't necessarily the people marching in the street carrying signs, but they certainly contributed to the civil rights effort. The first song is written by Curtis Mayfield called People Get Ready. It's a gospel-influenced song, and it's Curtis Mayfield's best-known song. Its train imagery fits in with a long line of African-American spirituals and gospel songs, such as the Gospel Train, that look forward to a journey to heaven. Train imagery appears frequently in the blues and in jazz as well. I Wish I Knew How It Would Feel to Be Free was written by jazz pianist Billy Taylor in 1963 as an instrumental piece. In this little demonstration, you'll hear its gospel-like harmonies. Now let's hear the vocal version of this. This is done by the great Nina Simone, who started off wanting to be a concert pianist, but the way was blocked for her, so she became a popular singer, songwriter, accompanying herself on the piano. Now, if the language in this next song offends you, I apologize. Mississippi Goddam is the angriest song you will hear today and became one of Nina Simone's best known. It was reportedly banned in some southern states. After the record company, Philips Records, got requests from DJs for the song, they edited it and bleeped out the offensive word with just beep beeps. The DJs still played it. In 2019, the Library of Congress inducted it into the National Recording Registry. Blowin' in the Wind from 1963 poses a series of rhetorical questions about war, peace, and freedom. This performance is from the 1963 Newport Folk Festival, and you'll hear not only Dylan and Joan Baez, Peter, Paul, and Mary, but Pete Seeger and the Freedom Singers. Now, in 1964, Sam Cooke gave us A Change Is Gonna Come. I think it's his finest song. As you listen to this, make a quick mental comparison with Blowin' in the Wind. It's a brilliant lyric, Blowin' in the Wind. But Sam Cooke, but it's a little bit detached, impersonal. Sam Cooke is first person, and he's speaking and singing from lived experience. Now, you may wonder, what about jazz? Did jazz play any kind of role in the civil rights movement? The answer is yes. It did not appear during the 1963 March on Washington. They wanted songs that people could join in and sing, and most jazz is instrumental. But jazz artists did their part. These albums, the Freedom Now Suite, the Freedom Rider, Fables of Faubus about Arkansas's governor. Eddie Harris wrote a Freedom Jazz Dance. And Duke Ellington in 1963 wrote a musical called My People and wrote one movement for Dr. Martin Luther King. King fit the Battle of Alabama. You'll hear the mention of Bull Connor. That was the horrible police chief of Birmingham. Here's a picture of King and Ellington meeting, a meeting of, in my opinion, giants. Of course, King was a giant, and I feel that Duke Ellington was America's greatest all-around musical figure. Composer, band leader, conductor, orchestrator, arranger, piano accompanist, soloist, and musical thinker. In 1968, he wrote the second of 3 sacred concerts. This was all about freedom. That was the theme.
The subject of our next selection, which is quite a production, is based on a very popular word, one that is very often used and quite often misused and overused.
Inner City Blues, Make Me Wanna Holler, was from Marvin Gaye and James Nix. They wrote it to depict the bleak economic times in the inner cities of America. By the time the Isley Brothers recorded Freedom in 1970, Dr. King, the moral leader of America, had been assassinated. And yet there was progress through the Civil Rights Act of 1964, the Voting Rights Act of 1966, and the Fair Housing Act of 1968. None of these laws, none of them would have been enacted had it not been for the civil rights protesters and activists. Some of the protesters paid the price by losing their jobs, their homes, their churches, or their lives. And yet the Isley Brothers chose to make a record that focused on newfound freedoms that had largely been denied a few years earlier. James Brown and Pee Wee Ellis, his band leader, wrote Say It Loud. It rode the charts for 6 weeks and became the unofficial anthem of the Black Power movement. Now, the need for civil rights songs did not end in the 1970s by any means. If we think about just the last decade, those fellow Americans who've been gunned down by the police, we have to remember George Floyd. And I'd like to play you bits of 2 songs about George Floyd. The last song this evening that I'm going to play comes from the spiritual Don't You Let Nobody Turn You Around. This is called Ain't Gonna Let Nobody Turn Me Around. And from the last decade, here are the roots. Music is a soundtrack to the continuing civil rights movement, but it is far more than a soundtrack. Music powerfully gives voice to the unvoiced, cries out in protest, calls out a rallying cry, urges on protesters, lends strength to singers and listeners alike, inspires all who heed the message, and can change minds and hearts. My good friend Lonnie Bunch, who heads the Smithsonian as the secretary of the Smithsonian, told the Washington Post, and I quote, "The story of racial justice is a long struggle and getting to the promised land of racial equality is something that is generations away. For all the good that music has done to advance respect and equality, and all that it will do through the coming generations, I think we should all be thankful. And I'd like to thank you all for your rapt attention tonight. You know, when a speaker gets an audience paying close attention, nobody's on their phones, nobody's falling asleep, nobody's whispering to the neighbor. It's a gift. It's a gift to the speaker. So you've given me a wonderful gift tonight, and I thank you very much.
Thank you. It was extremely interesting. I actually was around for most of this and never had heard it put together this way, but it was super interesting. My question is, this obviously was all in the United States, but situations of this type happen all over the world, and is this part of a sort of larger theme where music plays a role in, you know, liberation movements elsewhere, or is this a relatively unique experience?
No, it's an international phenomenon. I think one of the great examples is South Africa. During the apartheid movement, jazz was banned. And if the police found you playing jazz, they thought it would undermine the order, and they could arrest you. They could haul you off. So some jazz musicians left South Africa, and from abroad, then they played music that celebrated freedom and equality. I think that's the best example I can think of, but there's been protest music in so many countries around the world. To your question, sir, about other countries, Smithsonian Folkways Records recently put out a wonderful 4-CD box set called The Social Power of Music. And it has examples, of course, from the United States, but from and other movements in the United States besides civil rights, labor, gay rights, et cetera, women's rights. But there's a number of recordings from other countries too, and I'd recommend that to you. If you go to the Folkways website, you can actually download the extensive booklet that goes with it for free.
Hi, John, up here. It's good to see you. And I'm here. It's Bill Banfield. And then I've got Bob Blumenthal here. We both want to say hi to you. And the thing that's wonderful about what you portrayed is the notion of the through line, from the slave narrative to all the way to hip-hop contemporary. I think a lot of times young people don't understand or don't see those lines. And so part of the importance of American culture and history and heritage is being able to tap into and understand those through lines. So my dear friend, we thank you so much for coming to Boston to share your brilliance, and this presentation was so enlightening to us. We thank you so very, very much.
Thank you, Bill. This is the great musician, scholar, Bill Banfield from the Berklee College of Music and author of a number of books, highly recommended. Thank you. Thank you, everybody. Thank you.